The Elden Ring DLC has a bunch of new bosses that I thought were pretty cool, and some that were just straight trash. Here are the 14 bosses that I'm going to rank from worst to best. So let's start off with the worst one at number 14, which is the fight with Lita and her allies. This fight didn't have to be so bad, but if you decided to do like a no summons run, where you can't use your spirit summons or call up homies for backup, yep, it gets kind of difficult, right? Since I didn't have that luxury, I got jumped by all 4 of these guys. And apparently, your decisions in the base game would influence who would show up at this particular boss fight. So if you didn't end up summoning a certain ally for a certain quest, they'd probably come back to beef with you. If you told someone the wrong voice line, they might appear again in this boss fight. See, I didn't know that at the time when I was fighting them, but now that I know the information, I thought the concept was pretty neat. But I still felt like they could have delayed the spawn rate of some of the NPCs. Like for this fight, I ended up fighting Moore, Leda, Horsent, and the Dryleaf Dane. All of them wanted to jump the fuck out of me. But luckily, the only saving grace I had with this fight is that one boss would spawn first, and he would give me like a chance to kill that dude before the other 3 would spawn in. And what makes this fight so unfair is that they just have a lot of like spam abilities that is just so frustrating to deal with. They're over here spamming light attacks, Scarlet Rot, and other bullshit while you try to fight for your life. And what makes it even worse is that all 4 of those people have like a one-time use healing flask. So if you thought you were doing some major damage to the boss, there's a chance that he's just gonna drink some stupid ass potion and undo all the work that you've done.
Fuck, no, damn, fuck, damn it.
Yep, I'm gonna say it, this boss is easily the worst fight in this DLC.
Yes, 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 fuck yeah, bitch, fuck yeah.
But there's another boss in this DLC that I would say is just as bad, which is the Ancient Dragon Sinisax, coming in at the 13th spot.
Drink, 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 bitch, drink, drink.
Hate this dragon. I hate this dragon, bro. This bitch should have been a cakewalk, since we fought a couple of these dragons in the base game, but what makes this particular fight so trivial is the area you have to fight them. If you look around, the area is surrounded with water, and it's not done just for the sake of aesthetics. It's the reason why I had such a hard time with this boss. Like, this boss loves to spam the lightning attacks. And what does lightning love to do in water? Yep, that's right. It does significantly more damage to your character just because there's a puddle around. Like, I couldn't believe just adding a bunch of stupid pools of water around the boss fight would make this so difficult. Luckily, I had a talisman that offered some resistance to lightning, but even then I felt like it wasn't enough to adequately counter the dragon's attack. And after I finally beat the boss, I literally felt no satisfaction whatsoever. The only thing I felt was just relief, because I knew I didn't have to do that bullshit-ass fight anymore. Which is why I put it at the 13th spot.
There we go. Holy shit. Fuck this dragon. Fuck this map. Fuck the environment. Fuck this shit.
At the 12th spot, I'm gonna have to give it to the Scatter Tree Avatar. Like, this boss honestly should have been easier to fight, but my dumbass didn't know the head was the weakness. So for the first 30 tries, I've just been aiming all my efforts into a body without doing any significant damage whatsoever. And it was only through trial and error that I figured out that the head is actually the weakest spot for this boss fight. You know what, honestly, I can't even be mad at the game. It was like my dumbass mistake. I really should have realized it sooner, but I just wasn't paying attention to like what attacks were doing the most critical damage to the boss. But another gimmick that I didn't like about this boss is it has a third phase. Which, I'll be honest, it's not too bad considering the third phase is just a weaker version of the other 2. But if you didn't know he was gonna drop a fucking nuke, it would have probably easily sent you back to the spawn room. This might be my hottest take, but I feel like this boss just narrowly beats the Golden Hippo as the worst boss in the game.
Dead. See?
See, all you had to do was fucking know the weakness. I didn't know that, bro. I was like literally, it took me that long to realize that the head was the biggest weakness. At the 11th spot, I'm gonna have to give it to the Golden Hippo, because he was just an entirely different level of bullshit for me.
I fucking choked, bro!
It's not because his moveset is bad, it's just because my brain didn't understand when to dodge his attacks appropriately. Like, it got me so frustrated, I just ended up spamming my Ash of War until I beat this hippo. Like, I really could not care less about besting this creature fair and square. And what's crazy is there's smaller versions of this hippo scattered all around the DLC, which for some reason is a lot easier to me than fighting this giant version of it. Maybe it's because it doesn't have a giant porcupine-looking second phase, but in my opinion, that's why I put it at the 11th spot, because I would prefer not to fight this boss ever again after I beat him that one time.
There, fuck you, bitch. I hate this hippo, bro.
And at the 10th spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Gaius. To no one's surprise, I'm sure everyone has beef with this character in one way or the other. In my opinion, he honestly wasn't as bad as I thought he'd be. He just does this stupid ass attack where I feel like the hitbox isn't as consistent as it should be, and I'm sure everyone knows what I'm talking about. What the fuck, man? It's a stupid attack where he just bulldozes you, and it always feels like there's like a 50-50 chance of dodging it. But other than that, I felt like the boss was pretty fair for the most part. It's just that one attack that's just bullshit, which is why a lot of people probably don't even like this boss.
One more hit, come on, come on, come Come on, yes, 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 yes.
And at the 9th spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Romania, Saint of the Bud, which is a boss I wouldn't call bad. It's just, I would probably say it's just not memorable. A lot of the boss attacks were pretty telegraphed, so you could dodge it without much guessing. And some of them even have a sound cues. So if you listen for that, you can easily dodge some of the attacks. The only thing that would have been an issue in this fight was the Scarlet Rot butterflies that they just spam at you at the second phase. But that shit barely did anything, to be honest. So that's why I would place it somewhere in the middle of the list. Like, the most accurate way I can describe this boss is that it was just mid. Not entirely bad, but I wouldn't say it's entirely good either.
What? That's what I'm fucking talking about. Let's go.
At the 8th spot, I'm gonna have to give it to the Putrescent Knight. This boss has the coolest way to enter the arena. You literally have to fully commit to the fight by diving off the cliff like you're Kratos from the God of War games. Like, I'm still baffled about how you would connect the dots that this is what you're supposed to do at this certain moment. Like, just performing a leap of faith is what you needed to do in order to get to this boss fight. That alone made this boss pretty memorable for me because never in a million years would I connect the dots that you're supposed to jump off the cliff to continue to the next arena. And once you get to the boss fight itself, I would say it's pretty fun too. Like, some guy on YouTube said it best. It's almost like a fight you have to coordinate with the boss in order to like dodge their attacks. So after hearing that, I felt like I was participating in Dancing with the Stars, Elden Ring edition. Like, the only thing I didn't like about this boss was the stupid fire attack he throws at you. I think a normal, rational person who is patient can realistically dodge this consistently, but my lizard brain refused to learn this mistake and got me killed probably more than I should have. I will say this, after dodging a lot of the attacks, you do feel a lot of satisfaction after doing a successful dodge. So that's why I put it at the 8th spot on this list. I can't rate this boss any higher because it only has 2 gimmicks, and once you know all of them, this boss honestly isn't as cool as the next person on the list.
There we go. Fuck. Fuck. Oh.
So at the 7th spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Mater, Mother of Fingers. Like, this boss was straight nightmare fuel. You know, in the base game, I thought those nightmare-fueled master hands from Smash Bros was bad enough, but the Elden Ring devs said, let's make these enemies more terrifying. So before you could even fight this boss, you gotta do a couple of fetch quests. But it's kinda cool that they were able to foreshadow what kind of monster you might fight. As you progress through Ymir's quest, you go through 3 different places with a bunch of fingers sticking out. So you could probably infer that there's probably gonna be some kind of finger monster that you get to fight. And after you complete the quest, they finally revealed the big bad boss that we've been building up from the quest. And it's as grotesque as you can imagine, in kind of like a cosmic horror kind of way. Like, this boss has some cool movesets to back up that intimidation factor too. Like, it starts spinning like an unidentified flying object, as well as having this cool gravity magic where he turns the arena into a battlefield. And let's not forget, he also throws tapeworms at you, like he's some kind of Pokemon trainer. Like, overall, I say this boss has a lot of good things going for it, but the only thing I didn't like about this boss is how you have to blow something before you have to fight him again. The walk back from the spawn just takes too long in my opinion. Like, they should have given you the option to skip this animation. But it's a very minor complaint. Like, I still think the boss is pretty cool.
You fucked up, bitch. That's my chance. Or not.
There we go. And at the 6th spot, I'm gonna have to give it to the Dancing Lion. The Dancing Lion is one of the first Remembrance boss that you'll probably encounter in the game, which in my opinion is the best boss to kind of gauge your success in the DLC. This is one of the few bosses in the game with a cutscene, and it's pretty standard. But once you get into the fight, it kind of divulges into chaos real quick. Like, the lion will throw some weird ass attacks at you to force you to dodge in like a certain way, or even delay your dodges in order to prevent the boss from roll catching you. And not to mention, the boss will throw different elements at you, forcing you to kind of like chill out and account for each status effect that you get afflicted with in the fight. I think one of the coolest parts in the fight is when he does his whole animation to when he switches to different elements. Like, it's pretty cool to see, like, I'm not gonna lie. This boss also has an interesting mechanic where if he bites the fuck out of you, he will steal your health the next time you decide to use your flask.
What the fuck? He healed himself?
Which is probably the first time you'll ever encounter this debuff. Like, I don't know if that happens anywhere in the base game, but it's definitely a nice way to keep you on your toes and remind you to never get hit from this boss. Overall, pretty solid boss fight, which is why I put it at the 6th spot on this list.
Got him. Let's fuck out of here. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here, bro. Look at that shit. It only took me 50 tries.
At the 5th spot, I'm gonna have to give it to my boy, Mydra, Lord of the Frenzied Flame. Like, I love the place you find this boss. It's just a different vibe compared to the rest of the map. In this part of the map, you have to go through these spooky swamps filled with creepy monsters that are so gruesome, it makes Torrent scared to be summoned. And what makes it even worse is that you can't even fight back against these walking abominations. Unless you learn to parry, then these guys become pretty easy. But I think it's still a pretty cool concept. Like, I'm kind of liking the role-playing that Fromsoftware has set up so far. But then you actually get to the boss fight of this map, and you're greeted with this seemingly harmless fellow that is so petite and malnourished that you're probably wondering, like, this can't be the boss, right? Like, I've spent so much time dodging these difficult-ass tree wizards just to fight this boss. Then once you take him out pretty easily, Fromsoftware then hits you with a cutscene that does the coolest reveal for the real boss. Like, once you're watching this, it turns into a horror flick, like, real quick, as the person who you initially thought was harmless turns into the monster that we've been waiting for in this map. Like, good job Fromsoftware. Like, in my opinion, that was pretty cool. Like, I didn't expect that, so it was a pretty pleasant surprise. But as for the boss fight itself, it got a little tricky at first because he has this madness buildup that you have to worry about. But then once you chip off a little bit more health, he drops Nuke in the middle of the level and changes the whole arena to this burning hellish landscape. Like, everything about this boss design, to the movesets, to even the level design is pretty cool about this guy. The only part I struggle with this particular boss is just timing the delayed attacks. But you know, once you get that, you're pretty much all set. He also does this move where he jams a rod into your skull, turning into an upside down pine tree. Like, it's pretty cool at first, but it gets kind of annoying when you keep getting hit with it every single time. And remember that nuke that transitions the level to this hellish landscape? Well, that was kind of annoying too. I could never find a way to consistently dodge it, but it was whatever. I had like 12 healing flasks, so every time he dropped the nuke, I would just drink, get my health back. And what's crazy about this boss is he gets pretty messed up with parrying. So if you invested a lot of time getting good with parrying, this boss is pretty easy. Overall, I think it's a cool boss, which is why I put it in the 5th spot. And he's dead. Fuck out of here, fuck! Fuck out of here, bitch! Yeah, that's right, get parried, motherfucker! And at the 4th spot on the list, I'm gonna have to give it to Radahn, consort of Miquella. Let me tell you, the journey to get to this boss was just hard as shit. Like, remember all those horned warriors that never let up throughout the whole DLC? Well, you better get ready to enjoy fighting them, because they're scattered all over the map. And somehow, these are like the X-Men version of those horned warriors, because all of a sudden, they have these new powers that they ripped off from the Dancing Lion. And then once you beat all those dudes, you also get to fight one of the funnest boss fights in the game. That's right, you get to fight Leda and her allies. And I'm not even gonna waste any time just talking about how much I hate this fight. But just know, the journey to get to Radahn was just very tedious.
Wait, no, damn it! Forgot to switch it, fuck!
Hey, but look on the bright side. Once you finish all those obstacles, you get to fight one of the hardest boss fights in the DLC. And I'm not even joking. Like, what makes this boss pretty tricky is his 2nd phase. His 1st phase isn't so bad. I feel like you can consistently dodge most of the attacks, but the moment you get to the 2nd phase, that's when things get pretty rough. He has the same moveset from the 1st phase, but he sneaks a little light attack in between those combos, which in my opinion doesn't really hit that hard, but it's distracting enough to make you lose focus, and he really takes advantage of that. Another reason why people are struggling with this boss so much is because he has a very deceiving hitbox that extends past those elegant swords that he displays so proudly. So if you were confused on how he probably hit you at such a far distance, you were probably right. It's because he was hitting you with a baguette, instead of like the sleek, elegant swords that's been shown on the cutscene. Like, my only saving grace with this fight was my ability to parry, and the fact that I was able to dodge towards the boss. But still, with all these complaints, you're probably wondering why he's so high up on the list. And it's because the feeling you get after beating him is just so rewarding. Like, some people spent hours and even days trying to beat this boss. So for me to say that I beat him in less than 5 hours, you know, it makes me feel some type of way.
This is it! This is what we've been waiting for! The death of Radahn has happened today! Ladies and gentlemen,
he's fucking dead. He's fucking dead. It's also the first few bosses that I wouldn't mind fighting again from the DLC. Is that crazy to say? Like, I don't think so. Because if I can say I want to run the boss again after it took me hours to beat them, I think it deserves a pretty high spot on the list. And plus, that cutscene that reveals Radahn, I still can't get over it. Like, I feel like my testosterone level spiked after I saw that cutscene.
that's the most alpha fucking entrance I've ever seen in my life. Look at that shit.
And at the 3rd spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Rolana. I'm gonna be honest, this boss was the first boss to fully humble me in the DLC. After fighting the Dancing Lion and the Black Jail Knight, I thought I was untouchable. I made the assumption that this DLC was gonna be too easy for me. But then I met Renala and she fully humbled the fuck out of me, because I got stuck on this boss for 8 hours. Like, literally, it took me 120 attempts just to beat this boss, because she hits hard, she has long chain combos, and she doesn't get staggered whatsoever. I literally had so many instances where I felt like this boss was unbeatable, to the point where I considered using summons, or even respecking my character just to beat her.
No, I rolled backwards. That was my fault. I'm stupid.
Fortunately, your boy is very hard-headed and just brute forced my way through this boss and relied mostly on my questionable ability to parry every other attack. And as well as memorizing attack patterns, like, that really helped a lot with this boss fight. And you better believe that when I finally beat this boss, I had the biggest smile on my face.
Fuck yeah! Let's fucking go, bitch! Yeah, let's fucking go! Let's fucking go, bro. Let's fucking go.
So with me being discouraged so many times, you'd think it's gonna be a lot lower on the list, right? But for some odd reason, I had this feeling that I want to run the ones again with this boss. They were Fromsoftware, you can pat yourselves on the back. Like, this boss, even though it was pretty hard, it was still pretty fun to fight. So this is why it's in the top 3 spot. The second spot, I'm gonna have to give it to Bale. This fight was definitely the most cinematic fight in the game. Like, just the journey to get to this dragon was pretty cool to see. Before you have to fight him, you have to take out 3 dragons, and each subsequent time you fight them, they get harder and harder. Then once you beat all those 3 dragons, you have to dodge this lightning barrage that is probably coming from Bale. And you keep doing that until you finally get to his lair. And once you enter, he wastes no time and starts going ham off the rip. Damn, this boss was pretty tough at first, but once you get used to it, like, it's pretty doable. Most of his attacks I felt like were pretty fair. And once you memorize any attack patterns, like, the boss becomes very easy. Like, his first phase was pretty standard for the boss, but the moment his second phase kicks in, that's the moment I knew this was gonna be a top 3 boss for me. Because he transforms into this demon straight out of hell, blasting a bunch of, like, lava and lightning everywhere, just spamming your screen with a lot of particle effects. Like, that transformation I could watch all day, because this boss does 2 things pretty good. This boss combines epic visuals while having a lot of satisfying attacks to dodge. Okay, he's dead. Oh my god, bro, that was fucking wild. And let's not forget, we got the best part about the DLC just from this boss fight, which was this guy named Egon.
Curse you, Bale!
I would honestly finish New Game Plus just to fight Bale one more time and to hear this guy's crazy-ass monologue as well. Which is why it's at the second spot on this list. And at the first spot is gonna go to Mesmer. Surprise, surprise, the cover art villain becomes my favorite boss fight. What can I say? I love everything about this boss. I love this guy's attacks, both of his phases, the amazing voice acting the guy did, and even downright to the lore surrounding Mesmer. Like, I only had good things to say about this boss. I will say his first phase was a little tricky, because it really tested your ability to be patient with your dodging. Plus, he also has this cool attack where he throws a consecutive spear jabs like he's Luffy from One Piece. Like, that was the most anime shit I've ever seen in this DLC. But once you invest the time to kind of memorize his first phase attack patterns, the second phase is basically the same thing, just with more snakes. So the key in this boss fight is just avoid panic rolling at all costs. So if you have the self-control to not panic during his attacks, this boss becomes pretty fun. And in my opinion, a lot of his attacks were pretty fair. I couldn't think of an instance where the boss did a move that just was straight up unfair. Which is why I put Mesmer at the very #1 spot, making him my favorite boss fight from the DLC. Watch this.
What? Not like this, bro. Not like this.
Oh, he dead.
Oh, imagine I choke right there.
That was my list of the 14 bosses in the DLC. Go in the comment section down below and tell me which bosses you like, and tell me which ones you thought were just straight garbage. But before you go, I want y'all to hit the like button and subscribe, and then I'll see you guys on the next one.